Welcome to this sixth and final webinar in the ERA Fabric project titled Policy Issues for ERA Hubs. And my name is Håkon Haneberg from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and this webinar is also hosted together with Asa Malin and Elisa Sitanti from Trondheim Techport. In this webinar, we have three main speakers on the list, and also some final remarks from the lead of the project, Maria Grazia Zucchini. But our three speakers for today, they are first Francesco Molinari, Francesco is a distinguished international researcher and a freelance consultant with a track record in EU-funded initiatives. He's now based in Valencia and actively engaged with user-driven innovation and research projects and evidence-based policymaking. So Francesco will be the first speaker in this webinar, and after Francesco, we'll head over to Simone Hagenauer. She's a project manager at ECOPLUS, the business agency of Lower Austria. And she is leading a cross-border and international cooperation, cluster strategy, and capacity building initiative. And her expertise bridges regional innovation, ecosystems, and international cooperation, making her a leading voice in European cluster policy and sustainable development. So Simone will be the second speaker today. And the third speaker will be Ricardo Miguéis, and he's head of the Brussels office and INESCTEC, and he brings 2 decades of experience in research management, science and technology policy, and R&I funding strategies across Europe and Latin America. And he has advised Portugal's National Research Agency on mapping and governance of research infrastructures and chaired ESFRI's strategy working group on energy. So Ricardo will be our third speaker. So very pleased to have you all here. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we'll start with Francesco. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. I hope you can hear me fine. Now I'm sharing my screen. I will try to be quick and leave room to questions with anyone interested in this topic. I took the liberty of changing the title of my presentation versus the original one. I hope you will enjoy, and I will dedicate some time, most of my presentation, to explaining why I am using this new title instead of the old one, which was about, I don't know, I don't remember anymore. Of course, this is a collection of personal opinions built on my frequent interaction with the consortium and the activities of the ERA Fabric project funded by the Horizon Europe program, and especially managed, as Doug was mentioning, as lead partner by ARTER, the regional innovation and technology transfer agency of the government of Emilia-Romagna in Italy. And for them, I've been also in charge of some activities within the project, which gave me the possibility of taking some distance and therefore presenting these opinions to you. And trying to explain the falling star analogy. The project, which is now coming to an end, this is the last webinar of a series, but if you contact the website of ERA Fabric, you will see the previous editions, the recordings of the previous editions. The project in question was is still focused on this new policy concept named ERA hubs, which was introduced, as you can see on the bottom of this slide, in 2021 by a commission staff working document, and more precisely, more importantly, by the action plan of the ERA for the years 2022-2024. Just one mention what the ERA or ERA is about. ERA or ERA stands for European Research Area, and you can think of it as the common market, the single market for research, development, and innovation across Europe. So it's something we can compare with the single market for goods, services, companies, and people, which stands out as the main, probably the only ideal purpose of the European Union. The ERA is an old policy concept which was revived on the occasion of some degree of emphasis, the concept of ERA hubs. And the ERA hubs were described in the way that is shown on this slide, and to a great extent, our project, ERA Fabric, received the mandate and the resources to draw a policy scenario which was supposed to make room for these ERA hubs in the context of the new policy agenda. Something that we, of course, needed time to design, test to some extent. Testing, in this case, refers to more a proof of concept than a concrete implementation. And now what we are delivering is a collection of results. Pity that in the meantime, the global orientation of the European institutions towards the ERA has changed. And so now the vision we are presenting looks a bit outdated. But my point in this presentation is that it is outdated because the mention of ERA hubs has left the stage. On the other hand, the need for a transformative platform to bridge research and innovation efforts carried out across European countries and regions, to procure exchanges of visions and knowledge across the research and innovation groups and teams, and contribute to pooling resources and aligning policy strategies. All these priorities are still there, and my rhetoric argument in this presentation is, what are we going to do to replace a vision that never was with a new vision for the coming years? The testing activities of the proof of concept which we carried out in ERA Fabric focused on three intertwined dimensions, which we identified in the very beginning, and we can say occupied ourselves and our time for quite long in finding ways to conceptually validate them. Globally, we can say that these three dimensions are confirmed by the evidence we could put together and also share openly. If you hit our website, there are pages describing and documents telling you stories about what we have been doing, what we are delivering, and in the short to medium run after the end of our project, which is scheduled for the end of June, but also the end of the evaluation activities carried out by the Commission, you will be able to find more and more documents stored on our website as legacy for future policy actions. These three dimensions, I don't have the time of going through them. I just want to share the way we approached the issue of validating their respective importance. You see here a quite complex picture, which I don't have the time phase, focusing on finding ways for the documentation, if not the demonstration, of the possible contributions of these three dimensions. Here, the knowledge ecosystem dimension is shown, but then we have the multi-stakeholder platform dimension with a similar drawing and therefore approach, and finally the policy toolbox dimension. All these three have been carefully analyzed as attributes, as functions of this new ERA hub concept, to come to identify the ways these might contribute in the respective areas of influence to making, as the yellow block on the right-hand side says, this is a common statement for the three contribution stories, make the ERA an entity, a community. I repeat, the single market for research and innovation and researcher circulation, more and more integrated, able to valorize the results obtained by the various research and innovation teams engaged. So I was saying that this is no longer current as a vision. Of course, it is a paradox, and it's not even literally true. What we have now, very recently approved by the EU institutions as described in this slide, is the new action plan, the new set of priorities and objectives for the next 3 years, this included at the level of the European Union institutions and member states. As you can see, the agenda is true for the new one. It was true also for the previous one, which introduced the concept of ERA hubs. Is implemented on a voluntary basis by the member states and the regions. Therefore, it is like a collection of recommendations more than binding instructions. And this is also why we can regret, but not too much, that the global direction has apparently changed in practice, as simply decided to do without this concept, which we have tried hard to define. The new agenda has 4, and my attention will focus on the last one, which is connected with the joint effort of advancing, on the one side, the implementation of research and innovation investments within the member states, and on the other hand, the supporting or supportive reforms in the national and regional research and innovation environments. This concerted and connected effort allows me to make reference not only to the goals of the previous agenda for the contribution of the ERA hubs, as mentioned, you remember, in the yellow block, which was about integrating, joining forces, and so the concerted adjective still goes in the same direction. But it was also, and a lot, about share if we did the effectiveness of investments in R&D. Here is the connection with the new in cybersecurity, like, unfortunately, warfare, defense. In all these and other domains, the perception is growing of the importance of joining forces. Reduce the individual member states and regions legitimately are in possession of for the design and the financing of the respective research and innovation programs. Goal gain more efficiency in terms of capacity to stand in front of the big competitors Europe has. Think of the United States, think of China, think of other big countries where the issue is felt less relevant as it is felt in Europe, of giving space to the peripheries, to autonomous and in some way uncoordinated efforts, which are peculiar, incidentally, of a country or a region like the Europe, in the sense of European Union, full of smart and innovative people and places and communities. So to finalize my presentation, I promised 10 slides, and which treaty areas doesn't have any initiative to accompany its implementation. Saying in this priority area 4, which is in our scope, there is the singularity of not being mentioned any flagship initiative in support to its implementation, but only the generic, although very important, statement that the European Commission and the member states will remain committed to working closely together using a set of existing instruments which unfortunately do not include ERA hubs. ERA hubs could have been useful for what we demonstrated in this project, and the speakers after me will reiterate as main findings, to help pool resources, facilitate joint programming and investments in infrastructures, bridge gaps between ecosystems, innovation ecosystems, particularly the strong ones with the new and emerging ones, and globally turning policy ambitions into collaborative actions, fulfilling with priority the purpose of joining forces for matching the ambition of the needed investments in the new times, sometimes unfortunate times, which we are experiencing. The absence of ERA hubs leaves a void in this landscape. There will be apparently no one-stop shop for entities looking for opportunities of cross-border collaboration and knowledge valorization. Investments, policies, and innovation capacities will continue to show the fragmentation, which was originally considered as a target for policy action. And globally, we can say Europe is probably missing an opportunity for betterment of their current agenda for policy in this area. So I think I can close here. Apologies for the interruption, and I pass the floor back to Doug for the continuation of this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. So we have a tight schedule on this webinar, but you mentioned that question, so I think we have 1 minute for a short question if someone has it, or unless we continue to Simone. No, I think we bring the floor over to Simone. And I think Elisa will start sharing the slides.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Elisa, for having me out. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to present one of the deliverables, one of the results of our project. As Francesco very clearly, I think, described the concept, we looked at several perspectives of this hubs for pooling resources for an internal market of knowledge. And one of these perspectives was governance rules and arrangements. So how do stakeholders collaborate already? What needs to be improved in order to reach these objectives of ERA hubs? What needs to be arranged within the region, but also even more importantly between regions to make use of synergies. What worked well so far, and what needs to be improved? These were the questions that we looked at for a manual, which was recently finalized, and I would like to present some of the findings out of that. Elisa, if you could please go to the next slide. So I will not go into the ERA hub concept once again, as Francesco described it already. We followed within the governance manual, we followed the 4 dimensions for these hubs. So maybe just to repeat these aspects, the first one is directionality. How to make sure that the different stakeholders, public and private stakeholders within and knowledge ecosystems pull in the same direction. Second aspect, multi-level governance. So how to link the local, the regional, the national, the European levels better for better collaboration. Then specifically this interregional collaboration, how to link regional innovation ecosystems with complementary other regions. And then the fourth aspect was the involvement of stakeholders. And specifically, we looked at the quadruple helix here. So how to better involve civil society in order to make sure that research matches demand of our societies and help find solutions for societal challenges. I also would like to highlight here that even though this one-stop shop maybe not exist yet or is not a priority, a clear priority in our ERA policy agenda anymore, I would like to highlight that specific aspects, of course, do exist in the different regions in Europe. Some may be stronger, some may be weaker, and maybe it's more of a puzzle of different building blocks existing. And I would like to mention that there is a self-assessment tool available, and also published on our website, where regions can take a look at their own strengths and weaknesses and benchmark with other regions in order to discuss how to improve and where to improve. And one other point that we specifically looked at when discussing this governance arrangements was the aspect of transformation, with the basic thesis that era hubs could be an actor or would be an important part for driving this transformation process, initiate, facilitate this transformation process, as it is, it needs more efforts to change existing regimes and to go for new developments and connect global trends and regional needs. So coming to the next slides and the four dimensions, I would like to start with directionality. The issue addressed here is that challenges become more and more complex, and as I said, regimes are difficult to change. So the need is to involve different stakeholders to go into a joint direction, to align strategies and align across, on one hand, between public and private stakeholders, involving also local communities, for example, to collaborate across departments, across silos, to dedicate financing for this coordination. So this working across departments and disciplines is not coming on its without any support. So it needs coordination. It also needs resources for that. And then a specific point is experimentation, and that's probably the most difficult to implement. There's also a lot of discussion on how to allow experimentation in funding programs such as ERDF. And we know this is not easy to implement. However, in order to allow new technologies to arise, new developments to arise, it needs this experimentation. We found some good practice examples where these needs are already well addressed and met. One example that I like a lot personally is the shared agendas approach in Catalonia, in the Catalonian smart specialization strategy, where the regional and local level collaborate closely, and also civil society is involved in order to jointly address complex challenges. Another example was the mission implementation in Austria, a quite sophisticated process actually, and involving a lot of stakeholders to make sure that the European missions are aligned with Austrian strategies and funding programs, or rather the other way around, to make sure that the Austrian policy instruments also contribute to the missions on the European level. Another two is more as from Finland and Medifly in Hamburg. They are examples for this experimentation aspect. So how the policy level can allow for testing of new tools. On the next slide, I summarize some recommendations for this topic of directionality. So it is important to create a shared agenda, a common vision. And that usually starts with a place-based problem, because there it's also easier to involve local stakeholders. It is also, it's a quote from Catalonia was, "This is not about consensus building." So it is important to start with a coalition of the willing to start going and then involve more stakeholders. It clearly shows also how the strength of a strategy grows when it is linked over the different levels. So if local priorities and needs and the national and EU strategic priorities are linked. It is important to create spaces for experimentation in order to invest in niches and apply a trial and error mindset. I mentioned that already several times. A common vision and a strategic alignment is essential for a transformative change. That's also one finding here. Second topic is multi-level governance. The issues we mainly addressed in this chapter is the local regional fragmentation and the lack of critical mass. This specifically is the case for federal states, of course, with a lot of different regional policies within the country. So this needs to be linked somehow. And another issue addressed is the implementation across the different levels. So to make sure that on one hand, local pilots are also leveraged to a regional or national level and to learn on a higher level from local pilots, and the other way around to make sure that national or European strategies are really implemented also on the local ground. The good practice examples we found here is one is again from Austria as a federal country, as I mentioned, Bioeconomy Austria, which is started as a project, is now an association of regional actors, regional intermediaries, clusters, platforms in the field of bioeconomy, collaborating across the Austrian regions in order to implement the national bioeconomy strategy. And the second example is a collaboration of local and regional actors from Emilia-Romagna, local and regional actors jointly defining, designing, but also financing and implementing the technopoles in the region. Some recommendations here. It is important to support the development of localized solutions while maintaining the national, the strategy from the higher levels. It is important to make sure this circles, we call it top-bottom cycles. So to make sure that learnings from the ground, from the local level are leveraged and are used also on higher levels, and the other way around to make sure that strategies are implemented on the ground. And in order to do so, it needs also efforts for coordination, for mutual information, so each level can inspire others, and hopefully the culture of cooperation will grow. And the third point is funding. From the examples, you will find there also some cases of how the different levels co-finance activities together, which also, of course, leverages then the implementation. The third aspect is the cross-border collaboration. The issues addressed here is on one hand that EU funding for interregional collaboration is of course important, but limited, and it should be complemented by regional and national funds supporting interregional collaboration. And the main big issue here is a lack of capacity and expertise in the regions. Needs in this respect are support services for building this capacity, better communication. So what is the added value of interregional collaboration? Better, if it becomes clearer, then hopefully that also helps to mobilize additional funding. And then thirdly, the identification of common priorities. So this streamlining, this identification of complementary knowledge and resources. Good practice examples here, just very briefly, is at the collaboration corridors, and a concept developed in a European project, and now also implemented in across several initiatives. This is an example for the agreement of common priorities and the establishment of long-term collaboration. There are several examples for joint funding of interregional collaboration. The ones we described here was Vinovate, an interregional financing instrument developed in the Vanguard initiative, which is only regional and ERDF funding. And then the third one is a very good example of aligning regional strategies with international projects from Emilia-Romagna. The recommendations I would like to mention here is the portfolio approach. So to try to go from single projects to a more holistic, more global view on European projects the own region is involved in. Not so easy to implement, but it starts, of course, with monitoring what is going on, where in which kind of projects and initiatives are the different stakeholders involved in the region. And the second point I would like to highlight here is support for this co-funding activities for European partnerships is available via ERA-Learn, the ERA-Learn website and initiative, also with events. And last but not least, stakeholder involvement. I already mentioned at the beginning, we mainly looked at quadruple helix, so civil society involvement, end user involvement right from the beginning. And the good practices we looked at here were, one was from Flanders, looking as of dealing with artificial intelligence application and the involvement of citizens in the development of new tools. The second example was from Germany, Bioeconomy Revier, where the civil society was engaged in green transformation. And the third one is a European partnership, so a funding tool mainly with all European member states involved, funding for interregional collaboration to drive urban transition. And it's not only a funding tool, but also provides arenas and different kind of dialogue formats where the different stakeholders also on local level can meet and develop projects together. Recommendations. And this is linked especially to the third example. It is very important to empower these local communities, neighborhood initiatives, entrepreneurs, so all those actors existing on local level and driving this transformation. But usually they're not really connected to the European level, and it needs support to connect these two worlds and to make these links. It is, in order to do so, very important to dedicate resources, dedicate time, and make sure that there is facilitation. So some kind of intermediary who is linking these different actors. And of course, important to address fears and uncertainties in these societal transitions. And from the funding perspective, from the policy perspective, funding schemes need to be rethought. So it needs specific criteria to foster this process of involving new stakeholders in projects. Yes, and with that, I would like to conclude, and I'm open to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. we're on a tight schedule, but if there's one very short question, we can do that before heading over to Ricardo. No, then I think it's time for our third main speaker today. That is Ricardo. So the stage is yours. And you're muted.
Okay, sorry. I should have learned about how to work with Zoom after so long, but sometimes I'm slow to learn. So, following on the inspiration of Francesco, and because we are here at the end of a project and between colleagues, I also changed the title of my presentation. And I think that the title is to make us laugh a little bit, but also to make us to give us some hope, because I thought Requiem so, funeral-like. So I really did not like that one. So I thought, Francesco, sorry about that. But I'm like, well, what are you doing? So the thing is, era hubs are dead. Are they? Yes, they are. But in the paper, because the fabric, like Francesco said, like Simone said, the fabric is not dead. The fabric is there, right? The fabric has the same problems, has the same challenges that it always had. And so the concepts vanished, but everything that we have as challenges is still there, and it's becoming more and more urgent. And so the message is we're gonna have to see this implemented in one way or another in the next MFF or framework program. Call it era hubs or call it something else, but we're gonna have to have that implemented. So most of you have seen this presentation. I'm not going to go through all of it. What I think it is important is that it is very important for all of us to take home to our regions, to our institutions, is that when we talk about concepts like era hubs, but if we talk about any other concept, they're never a goal. No policy like this is a goal in itself. They are a means to an end. They are an instrument for us to achieve something better for our society. And this, it was a proposal, a means that we could collaborate more between regions, that we could collaborate more without the artificial barriers and the fragmentation that avoids that we build value chains in a very fluid way across different regions, different countries. And we cannot do it just because in a natural way, just because the other guy or the other girl is on the other side of the frontier, whatever frontier it is, sometimes even in the same country. And of course, to increase the competitiveness, the strategic autonomy to bring more quality of life to all of us in the next programming period, and with recourse to the instruments that we have at the European level. Now, the governance gap is the main gap. And this is very much connected with the policy because, again, we have to remember, we have the research and we have been working on it for years. It's getting better and better. We have excellent research everywhere in Europe. We have the talent everywhere in Europe. Unfortunately, we even have complementarities. Sometimes we have some healthy competition, but sometimes we have a lot of complementarities. We cannot make use of it because of the governance gap. So it's not that we're failing in innovation, it's that we're failing in coordination. So era hubs was a concept, or is a concept, meant to bridge that gap and to achieve impact and scale. And this is what was written in the communication of 2020, that we need to build a networking framework to strengthen excellence and maximize the value of knowledge creation, circulation, and use. This is recognizing the gap that we are trying to address with their hubs. But that did not happen very well because we are living in a very, very dangerous moment for Europe and the world, as we all know. I'm not going to go into politics here, but we all know that. And so these nationalisms, these inward-looking politicians, egocentric policies that in the end have nothing to do with the best of the society, they are playing against us. We just have to accept that. But on the other hand, this is also somehow superficial, because what we have is still a huge capacity in everywhere. I'm not going to name regions, because I am a bit traumatized with my colleague from Austria that called me out when I did not say Austria last time. But we have excellent regional ecosystems, regional capacities across the whole of Europe that still live with these funding silos, with these bureaucratic obstacles and national rules. So the big mantra here is that we are actually governing locally and we are trying to act internationally. And this has been validated by the need for something to overcome this, has been validated by the work that the project has done. So this project, colleagues, has achieved quite a lot, because we have spoken with a lot of people, mainly you, not me. You've spoken with a lot of people, and you have achieved enormous things, even for your institutions, because you are the drivers of the change in your institution. So that's somehow a message of hope that I wanted to of hope and of practice that I wanted to incentivize you with. And in one of the good pieces of work that were done, you have these modes of error hubs characterized, and these are different types of hubs or modes of regional innovation governance that we managed to characterize based on the 33 regional ecosystems that were mapped and that were, again, characterized in detail. And there are different types of hubs. Now, obviously, this is not static. Some of them have characteristics that are from the four typologies. But the key here is that we have reference points. You have tools in each of your regions to start implementing measures, to start thinking from a departure point that you did not have when this project started in each of your regions, from each of your institutions. So this is important, and I think that you should make use of this if this is possible, or try to pass it on to anyone that can make use of it, and not diminish it, because it will come back. This is not dead. It is just like a sleeping beauty, waiting for its charming prince to come in a while and wake it up again to be implemented. And again, we have a lot of toolboxes. We have a lot of tools that we have also identified that are needed for this very complex matrix of human fabric that we have to work with every day. And these toolboxes help us achieve specific things. For example, I was listening to Simone, and she was telling a lot of interesting things that are very true. And I was thinking, okay, Simone, but when you want to implement that, a lot of the people that are listening to you will say, yeah, but how do I do it? Like in practice, right? And you that are a practitioner, Simone, you know that very well. Like doing it is the hard thing. So we have tools, and these tools, they can be used by all of you, and they can be used to make change. And as we know, change begins with ourselves. So if you want change to begin in your region, you now have tools that you did not have at the beginning of the project. Plus, the struggle of the Era Hub concept, as we have seen, was never about ideas nor the idea of Era Hub. So when we characterize the urgency level of the things that need to be done, it was very, very clear in the different surveys, in the different interviews that were carried out, especially now these interviews at the end of the project, which were very, very interesting and very deep in some cases. They told us that it is critical that we overcome the fragmental multi-level governance. And now we have this MFF being prepared, where the European Commission is trying to put everything in a competitiveness fund, and there are many resistances. But when it comes for your region, for your institution to be minimally engaged in the negotiation process and in the planning and policy preparation processes, try to make them see how important certain of these things are and how to think about these issues, about the diminishing of the complexity, the administrative complexity, or the multi-level governance fragmentation, among others. And so, finally, we are now going to finalize this project with some deliverables. And one of them is going to be some final deliverables that are going to bring all of the knowledge that you guys have collected along the process. And they are going to bring together, as well as we can, the tools that we have developed, the knowledge of the consultations, the characterizations, and develop a tentative roadmap to help policymakers in regions, in nation states, and at the European level to start this implementation. And I believe that with even in the current, or maybe even with the current dimension, as Francesco has very cleverly pointed out, making use of the language that the New Era Act is using now, is conveying now, focused on efficiency, focused on competitiveness, we can implement and we can valorize the regional dimension, the local dimension, and the interrelation between those different vertical dimensions, regional, national, and European, more and more. And we should, but also let's try not to do that in a static, isolated way, because we are going to be contributing to fragmentation more and more. So let's try to do that in an articulated way with whoever is our colleague around Europe. And that's what we're going to write in this roadmap in a nutshell. Obviously, respecting all the beautiful concepts that we have developed, and that's it. I will stay here with his final words to build the future of ERA one impact at a time. So thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo, and for some important points to make here at this point in the project. We also have some words from Maria Grazia Zucchini, who has led the ERA Fabric project as well.
So hello to everybody. It's a pleasure for me to conclude this webinar. Our intention was to provide you a quick overview of the main results of our projects in a sort of some lesson learned that can be given as a legacy of our activities in order to enhance and activate further discussions, further elements. I would just to thank the speakers that took part to the project realization and that summarized what had been achieved at project level with the contribution of all the 11 partners taking part to this activity and this projects. I would like to tell you that we are finalizing the final documents, collecting the different examples, the different ideas, the different vision we collected and discussed during the projects. You will find all these results on our website in the next few days. And we really hope that this reflection, this consultation, this work that we have done will be useful for the future, for better shaping of our European collaboration that I think was undoubtedly fruitful during this project. So that's a whole from my side. Okay.
Well, thank you to you too, Maria Grazia. And we're exactly on 12 o'clock on the time of this webinar. So with that, I also want to thank all the three speakers and also you, Maria Grazia, for saying some final words here in the webinar. And a recording of the webinar will also be made available in a few days. And just want to wish you a very nice day. So thank you for attending.
Thank you too, Doug.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice
you.
day. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Nice to see you. Hope to see you soon again.
Same to you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Danke, sehr, sehr, danke.